My name is Rayo Khalifa, and for my persuasive, I'm going to do why people need to stop dumping garbage into the oceans. Have you ever wondered why people dump garbage into the oceans and how they are legally able to do that? I don't have a background on this topic, but I do think it's something that needs to be talked about. Why people need to know about this is because they need to hear and understand how wrong it is to be doing. What exactly is dumping into the oceans, and what have people been throwing into them? There are many animals suffering because of garbage being dumped into the oceans, and what can we do to stop this? People get fined up to $500 if they are repeated offenders for throwing garbage out of their windows while they're driving. They can be charged as much as $2,000 if they have repeatedly been caught doing so. However, there are not a whole lot of rules as to what people can what they can't throw into the oceans. Before 1972, communities around the world used the oceans for waste disposal, including the disposal of chemical and industrial waste, radioactive waste, trash, sewage sludge, and contaminated dredge materials. And that came from the EPA.gov website. Before 1972, the wastes were often dumped into the ocean because people thought that the waters had an unlimited capacity to mix and disperse waste. Here are a few things the National Academy of Science estimated in 1968. As waste thrown into the ocean, 100 million tons of petroleum products, 2 to 4 million tons of acid chemical waste, more than 1 million tons of heavy metals, industrial waste, and more than 100,000 tons of organic chemical waste. The EPA records indicate that more than 55,000 containers of radioactive waste were dumped spanning from 1946 to 1970. But 34,000 of that 55,000 were dumped between 1951 and 1962. So in 11 years, that is already more than half, with 34,000. As someone can see, these oceans have had a lot of harmful waste thrown into them. The EPA for the last 45 years has tried to cut down the amount of trash thrown out into the oceans. However, there is still sewage being dumped into the oceans, along with trash like papers, rags, glass, metal, bottles, glass bottles. All that waste can last from 2 years to a million years. Yes, a glass bottle can last a million years. Tin cans can last 50 years. That's a long time, and it puts the marine life at a lot of harm there. The only thing it looks like it has been done is people are no longer able to dump chemicals into the ocean, and someone cannot dump their waste within 12 miles of the coastline, so when it doesn't come back and get onto the coastline. However, with the damage that is already done, we can with damage that's already done, all we can do is try and stop the harmful dumping and help the animals that are suffering. The biggest causes of pollution that are affecting marine life are microplastics. What microplastics are is just plastic that has been broken down. And other things would include abandoned fishing gear, which they get caught in, and other plastic pollution. Over the last decade, we have produced more plastic than we have in the last 100 years. With that being said, that also increases the amount of waste entering the oceans. The littering of the ocean is threatening and taking the lives of millions of marine animals such as seals, whales, dolphins, seabirds, fish, and crabs. There's an estimate 4 to 12 million tons of plastic entering the ocean each year. That's enough to cover every foot of coastlines on our planet. There is a report that more than half the world's sea turtles and nearly every seabird on Earth has eaten plastic. Microplastics are often eaten by seabirds because their size is so small. The microplastics are obviously very small. But the problem with that is the plastic contains toxic chemicals. The animals don't die right away. It takes months to years to fully affect them. In 2014, an estimated 15 to 51 trillion microplastic particles were floating in the ocean, weighing between 93,000 and 236,000 tons. Abandoned fishing nets are entangling and killing whales, dolphins, turtles, seals, and other sea animals. Cruise ships dump more than 250,000 gallons of wastewater and sewage every day. The waste contains bacteria, pathogens, medical waste, oils, detergents, heavy metals, and other harmful substances, all of which are putting marine life at risk. There are many things as humans that we need to do to help fix this problem and make sure it doesn't continue. Here's what we can do to help reduce the amount of garbage thrown into the ocean. Reduce the use of single-use plastics. So don't just use plastic one time and throw it away. And if you do throw it away, try to recycle. Some examples of using just single-use plastics would be plastic bags, water bottles, straws, cups, utensils, dry cleaning bags, and takeout containers. Increase waste management where the problem is the greatest, which would be in growing countries, because the consumption of plastic is faster than what a country can handle. Examples of these countries are Indonesia and China. Another thing that can be done is to recycle waste. That is easier said than done for some people. It is a pain because there may not be a recycling place close by. The stats show that only 9% of plastic gets recycled. Avoid the use of micro beads. They can be seen in some face scrubs, toothpaste, and body wash. Ultimately, there just needs to be better knowledge and education on this topic. People do not understand how severe this waste and pollution is to marine life. In conclusion, living consciously and watching what a person does with their waste is an important first step. Looking for resources such as recycling centers in a community is a good step in garbage and waste not being thrown into the waters. We as people should come together and be part of a cleanup group, and whether or not you can be part of a cleanup group or not, try to cut down on the amount of plastic being used if you're not able to be a part of a cleanup group. Whether or not someone lives by an ocean, they should try and watch how much waste they're throwing away and try to help do their part in that way. In the end, it is never too late to reverse the pollution in our oceans as long as we take a big step in cutting down the amount of pollution and waste being thrown in.